Hi, this is Garrett here with Propagation Labs to show you how to set up your new scope probe. So out of the box you should have a few things. You should have the sensor bullet, which contains all the electronics and the sensors, along with a cover that protects it. You should have your collapsible pole. This is what extends to give you about 160 centimeters of probing depth. You should have an extender pole, and this gives you an additional 50 centimeters if you are probing in deeper snowpacks. And you should have 3 batteries. So going into a few of the more details on the sensor bullet. So removing the cover, which is just here to protect your sensors when it's in your pack. We have the bullet here. So this section houses a circuit board with a couple sensors, a couple LEDs, an antenna to connect to your phone. Kind of all the electronics are in here, and two main important sensors. So there's the optical window, and this is your depth sensor. And then there is the tip, which is your force sensor. So there's the tip, and there's a little gasket that keeps the tip sealed from the outside elements. It's important to keep both these sensors pretty clean over time. If they get dirty, they get dirt in them, they get scratched up, it's okay, but it'll perform better when these sensors are really clean. So take good care of these. On the back side, this kind of thinner diameter tube, this is where your batteries go. So 3 AAAs get inserted into here, and there's this black connector piece which serves as the back battery door for your batteries, and then also connects it to your collapsible pole or your extender pole. So when you're not using your scope, always make sure the cover's on, both because it protects the sensors and your cover is actually your on-off switch. I'll get back to that in a minute. So to connect your sensor bullet, it's all the good stuff, to the pole so you can actually probe. It's probably easiest first to extend your collapsible pole, and this works really similar to a normal Abbey probe. So on the top, you just pull it apart until the snap button clicks, and then you've got a nice pole. And then to attach it, you just have a threaded connection here, and you can screw it in, thread it together. If you want a little extra depth, so just with the collapsible pole, you'll have about 160 centimeters. If you want to bump that to 210 centimeters, you can put your extender pole on, and this goes in between the collapsible pole and your scope bullet. So threads into there, and then your sensor bullet threads onto the other end. I'm not going to fully thread it in right now, just for time. But yeah, most of the time, you're probably going to want to keep your sensor bullet just on the collapsible pole, just because it's easier to keep in your pack and it folds up to a nicer size. So just collapse that button, fold it up, and then once this cover's on all the way, this volet strap can just wrap around it all and hold it together in a nice package that takes up about the same space as an avalanche probe in your pack. So those are kind of all the parts of the scope probe. Now I'm going to show you how it works. So to get this thing started your first time, you're going to take the cover off. You're going to want to unscrew this connector piece from the scope. So you should see the little spring sticking out, and it should be empty on the back of the sensor bullet. Take your 3 batteries, go positive side in, all 3 positive side in, into the battery pole here, and then screw your sensor bullet back onto the connector. And that connector completes the circuit, and you should see some green lights pop up on the scope pole. So now the scope is on. This is your first time. Next thing you're going to have to do is set up an account on the app and connect your app to the scope. So let's go do that, and then I'll show you how to connect the app to the scope. So to set up an account on your app, once you've downloaded it, this should be the first screen you see. On the bottom where it says don't have account, click sign up here, enter your email and password. And then for organization code, if you're a part of an organization and you want to share data privately between other members of your organization, you should set up an organization. And to do that, please contact us at Propagation Labs, and we will generate an organization code for you, and that way you can share your data privately. For now, I'm not going to do that, and I'll just click register. So that's going to create an account here. It says, hey, you have no profiles. So great, I've got an account set up. Now I'm ready to connect to my scope and start taking profiles. So now that you've got your app set up on your phone, an account created, and you have your sensor bullet with the batteries installed, I'm going to show you how to connect to your sensor bullet and how to take your first profiles. So first thing here, remove your cover. You should see a green light come on. There's two LEDs on the sensor bullet. First one is either a green or a red light, and that's your status LED. So that'll tell you things like, is it on? Are you ready to probe? Did you just collect a successful profile? Did you get an error? Things like that. And the other LED is your connection LED. So that will tell you if you're connected to your phone or if you're not connected to your phone. So right now there's no blue LED on. That means I'm not connected. So let's connect to my phone. Pull out your phone. You should have the app open. You should be on the main menu because you had an account created. Click in the top left on that menu. Click Connect Scope. You should see a scope pop up with the serial number matching this. It's your first time, that serial number might not totally match because it takes a connection or two to remember that number, but regardless, it should be the only thing that says scope or device that pops up. Click Connect. You should see that blue LED turn on. That means you successfully connected to your phone. And then you should see a status on your phone in that menu. I'm going to encourage you the first few times you're probing to keep this menu open so you can always see what the scope is doing and kind of coordinate that with what the LEDs are doing. Over time, you'll gain a better understanding just based on the LEDs and the vibration of the scope, what's happening, and you won't need to keep your phone out. You just keep it in your pocket, and that way it's much easier to use in the snow. So it's kind of nice the first time to take a profile inside without actually going out in the snow, just to kind of learn the device flow. So keeping your phone out, keep looking at that status. Once you tilt it vertically, it'll say ready to probe. So the scope actually can identify orientation, and once it's vertical, it goes into a ready mode. So you can only probe with scope vertically into the snow, and once it's vertical, it sets up the sensors, getting them ready to collect data. And it'll actually start a profile when that window, when this optical window, your depth sensor, sees the snow surface and sees you penetrating the snow. So to do a test profile inside, we can kind of fake that snow surface by running that window down a surface like my shirt or my pants. So holding it vertically, keeping that window against me, I'll just run it down my pants, and that will start a profile. And you should see some blinking of the LED, that means it's processing, and then it's blinking green, meaning you got a successful profile. And if you look at your phone, you should see a profile pop up. It's going to be pretty meaningless. It's going to be junk data. A lot of times you might get an error doing this because you're not actually in snow. Don't worry about that. It's totally fine. If that's the case, you'll get a little error dialog pop up, and that LED will blink red, telling you that it's an error. So yeah, practice that a few times inside before going outside. Just get familiar with what the LEDs do, what your phone does when you get a profile, all that sort of stuff. Actually, another important thing when you're setting up your phone for the first time with the app, it's going to prompt you to allow location, to allow notifications, to allow a Bluetooth connection. You're going to have to say yes to all those if you want to get location and notification on your profiles. So finally, last thing, you're done taking profiles, put the cover back on. That protects the sensors, and it is your on-off switch. So you might have noticed there's no physical on-off switch on this device. Once the batteries are in, you just leave them in for the season. It's totally fine. Similar to your beacon, you don't take the batteries out after every use. So to turn it on and off, this cover actually blocks this optical sensor. And when that optical sensor doesn't see motion for a specific period of time, it'll turn the device off into a deep sleep state using very little power. So it's fine to leave it like that for the whole season. Never take the batteries out. But to turn it back on, you just take the cover off. That window will see the motion of the cover moving, and it will turn the device back on. If occasionally it doesn't actually turn back on, you don't see lights come on when you do that, just rub your finger, your glove, over this window back and forth. That'll give that window more motion and for sure wake it up from that sleep state. And then really occasionally it won't wake up even when you do that. You won't see any lights on, you won't connect to your phone. In that case, a hard reset is probably your best option. And to do that, just unscrew this connector from the back of your probe that deconnects the electrical connection and put it back in. Similar to any other electronics, there's an issue. Turning it on and off, is unplugging it, plugging it back in is usually your best solution. So super simple, just do that in case anything weird happens, in case it doesn't turn on, and it should start right back up. And if it still doesn't, your batteries are probably dead. So yeah, that is sort of everything as an intro to the probe. Next steps, probably go out in the snow and start taking some profiles. And for tips on how to do that better, we've got another video that you should check out. Thanks.